This is a presentation about the Financial Audit Report, Audit of Aurukun School Partnership Arrangement, Report 11 for financial year 2016-17. Please note this is a summary of the report to Parliament. The full report can be read on our website. The Queensland Audit Office conducted a financial audit that assessed the adequacy of governance, enrolments, expenditure and recruitment of a partnership arrangement between the Department of Education and Training and the Cape York Partnership, later referred to as Good to Great Schools. Consequently, whilst it focuses on Aurukun State School, in some cases this arrangement extended to both Vale and the Coen State Schools. Where appropriate, we have included them in our analysis. This audit does not assess the method of teaching delivered at the three schools or outcomes. In November 2009, the Government endorsed a partnership model to address the education needs of Indigenous children in Cape York communities. The Department of Education and Training, DET, established a pilot with Cape York Partnerships, CYP, which later transferred to a new organisation, Good to Great Schools Australia, GGSA, both not-for-profit organisations. In December 2009, DET and Cape York Partnerships signed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, as a temporary measure that allowed a pilot to begin at the start of the 2010 school year. The MOU documented that it was to be replaced by a binding agreement between partners no later than 22nd of January 2010. This never happened. The MOU stated that CYP, in partnership with DET, would improve educational outcomes for Indigenous children in Cape York. The partners would achieve this by implementing and operating this partnership education model initially in two campuses, Coen State School and Aurukun State School, and subsequently at two additional campuses every 2 years. Only Vale State School in 2011 was additionally brought into this arrangement since the MOU was signed. The MOU set some broad accountabilities for each of the partners. CYP GGSA was to be responsible for the program and activities within schools involved in the arrangement, known as the Class, Club and Culture program. DET remained responsible for the overall operation of the schools, including staffing and facilities. We found no evidence of financial impropriety in the administration of the funding between DET and CYP GGSA. We identified poor financial stewardship by DET, breakdowns in its internal controls, and routine non-compliance by its staff with departmental policy and procedures for enrolments. DET's actual spend on the partnership, $9 million over 7 years, was significantly lower than the budget approved, $12.5 million through the funding agreement. In the absence of sufficient terms and conditions through a binding agreement, and our assessment of the arrangement as a grant, the claims submitted by CYP GGSA appear reasonable. DET was unable to move from an MOU to a binding agreement, reducing its ability to manage towards the planned outcomes. When the relationship was tested, the lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities between partners, combined with differing perspectives about what the partnership meant, has led to increased distrust and stalled negotiations in formalising a suitable agreement. We found no evidence of any deliberate manipulation of effective enrolment numbers at Aurukun School between 2010 and 2016. However, DET did routinely overstate effective enrolment numbers. This issue was driven by school staff's incorrect interpretation of DET enrolment policy, guidelines and poor record keeping. DET's internal audit function raised a number of high-risk issues in two internal reports in 2014 and 2016. While some of the issues from the first report have been resolved, high staff turnover of the school leadership team has led to many high-risk issues remaining unresolved or not being resolved in a timely manner. This raises questions around the ability of DET's governance framework to address high-risk school internal audit issues in a timely manner. In arrangements where partnerships are established that focus on achieving community outcomes rather than simply procuring goods and services, public sector entities must ensure that the planned outcomes, the principles that set the tone of the partnership, and the accountabilities of each partner are clear. Regardless of the perceived urgency, Clear terms and conditions should be documented before funding is provided, using stage gating if necessary to ensure clarity between partners as soon as practical. Public sector entities cannot divest their overarching accountability for the prudent spend of taxpayers' money and the overall achievement of policy objectives. Partnership arrangements need to be proactively managed. Governance should include regular evaluations of whether partnership arrangements continue to achieve the agreed objectives, are cost-effective and provide value for money. Performance measures become even more critical in supporting those charged with governance in monitoring the success of the partnership in achieving these community outcomes. Without these, the spirit of a partnership, where partners agree to cooperate to advance mutual interests, can be at risk of being a partnership in name only. We recommend that the Department of Education and Training firstly implements binding agreements for any arrangements with external education providers before providing funds. These agreements should include terms and conditions such as the objectives to be delivered and principles that guide the arrangement, reliable measures to assess whether key objectives have been met, and stage gates tied to funding where partners need to perform initial work before the costs or activities for subsequent work can be determined. Secondly, provides adequate training and supervision to its staff when it enters into an arrangement with other education providers to ensure governance arrangements, internal controls and policies and procedures are correctly implemented. And thirdly, reviews its governance arrangements to improve timely implementation of internal audit recommendations. Thank you for listening. We trust this presentation has been of value. For more information on the issues, opportunities and recommendations highlighted in this summary presentation, please see the full report. Audit of Aurukun School Partnership Arrangement. On our website, under Reports and Resources at qao.qld.gov.au.